that immigrants come over here and they don't know anything and they're dragging us down, because we all come from immigrants, including you, Tomi Lahren.
She talks about low skills. What exactly are her skills?
Her second great-grandmother had been here for 10 years, yet spoke no English. Oh, my gosh. 1930 census says Tomi's 3 times great-grandmother had been here for 41 years and still spoke German. She didn't speak English either. She doesn't even know her own history. She certainly doesn't know this country's history.
Well, there is a woman over the weekend who took it upon herself to research my family history in hopes of digging up some kind of a gotcha moment, a gotcha angle to validate illegal immigration and open borders. And what she found was really shocking, guys. She found that my family who came here in the 1800s from Norway and Germany, that they spoke Norwegian and German. Okay. And really what she...
Sunny Hostin just got verbally body slammed harder than a WWE rookie, and the crowd isn't even cheering, they're laughing. Tomi Lahren showed up with verbal napalm, and Sunny didn't even bring a fire extinguisher. One minute she's smug, the next she's gasping like someone unplugged her teleprompter. If you've ever wanted to see a self-proclaimed intellectual trip over her own arguments in slow motion, buckle up, because Tomi just turned Sunny's spotlight into a floodlight of pure humiliation.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. Here's how she took the news. Roll it.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living.
Sunny Hostin never seems to realize she's walking into traps of her own making. Every time she opens her mouth, she serves up a debate like it's a buffet. Plenty of noise, plenty of filler, but no real meat on the plate. And then along comes Tomi Lahren, who doesn't even bother grabbing a plate. She just walks straight into the kitchen and slams the stove shut.
That my family who came here in the 1800s from Norway and Germany, that they spoke Norwegian and German. Okay. And really what she did is prove that my family came here legally, but what she was hoping to do was try to call me a hypocrite for believing in merit-based immigration. Again, she failed miserably, but this really isn't what she calls resistance genealogy. It's just another indication of Trump derangement syndrome.
That's exactly what happened here. Sunny strutted in with her usual condescending tone, thinking she'd dominate, but Tomi? Tomi showed up with a rhetorical wrecking ball and swung it right through Sunny's glass house of recycled talking points. You have to admire Sunny's confidence, though. It takes a special kind of self-delusion to believe that lecturing people on The View counts as intellectual weightlifting. She's the kind of debater who thinks volume equals victory.
Happy, though, that she has such a fascination with my family history, and I'm hoping that she will take on Elizabeth Warren's next.
Wow, that would be very interesting. Tomi, a couple of things. They do not understand the conversations about illegal immigration and immigration. One group of people signs the guest book and says, I'd like to stay, here's my credentials. The other sneaks in. They might both be fine people, just as there's a way in and there's a wrong way in. And for them to go that deep in your background, you have gotten under their skin to a level I didn't think was possible. What is it about?
If she raises her voice just enough, maybe the audience won't notice the logic sprinting out the back door. But Tomi doesn't play by those rules. She sits there with that sharp grin that says, go ahead, talk yourself into a corner. I'll wait. And wait, she did. Sunny tried to come in strong, but it was the same tired playbook we've heard 1,000 times. Every argument framed around identity politics, sweeping generalizations, and this unwavering belief that if she declares herself the smartest in the room, everyone else has to clap.
Attacks on her ancestry from Sunny Hostin on The View in a clip that's been making the rounds on social media due to a recent discovery in Sunny's own colorful background. Ladies on The View don't understand the average American's concern with immigration. To them, they just represent a cheap and friendly servant class, which I'm sure Sunny Hostin's family is probably used to. I mean, you remember when Kelly Osbourne put her foot in her mouth for asking Trump who was gonna clean his toilets if he sends all the illegals away? They're so detached from regular people, it's like they're in the Hunger Games.
It's like watching a magician perform the same card trick again and again, except halfway through you realize they're holding the card in plain sight and hoping you won't point it out. That's the beauty of Tomi. She doesn't get dazzled by the smoke and mirrors. Instead, she slices through with facts like she's running a sushi bar of logic. Sunny serves up outrage on a silver platter. Tomi sends it back with a side of receipts. One is a PowerPoint presentation no one asked for. The other is a punchline that leaves the audience cheering. Let's break down why this clash was so deliciously one-sided. Sunny operates on feelings. Always has, always will. She frames her arguments around emotion, as if passion alone is proof. The problem is, Tomi thrives on precision. She doesn't waste time padding her statements with unnecessary fluff. She goes in, makes her point, and leaves no room for escape. It's the difference between throwing confetti and firing a dart. Sure, Sunny's arguments make a lot of noise, but Tomi's actually hit the target, and Sunny hates that. You can see it all over her face when she's cornered. The smirk fades, the voice rises, the interruptions pile on. It's her default meltdown mode. The second someone pokes holes in her reasoning, she panics and starts jumping topics like a playlist on shuffle.
I represent Middle America. So you've got the two coasts, and those individuals seem to kind of just talk to each other. And then you've got all of Middle America right there that's dying to have a voice. They don't really feel like they have one. They're not represented, beyond their communities. So I think they watch me and they say, well, she speaks like I do. She thinks like I do. She seems to maybe get it like I do. And I think that's why it's resonated. And also I do something very different. There's not a whole lot of young conservative women out there. And so I provide that for a lot of young women.
1 minute she's talking about history, the next she's ranting about morality, and then suddenly she's screaming about fairness as if sheer indignation can erase the fact she just lost the argument. That's the exact moment Tomi shines. While Sunny spirals, Tomi stays collected. She doesn't shout over, she doesn't flail, she just calmly keeps pointing out the obvious flaws until Sunny is practically debating herself. It's like watching someone argue with a mirror and then getting mad because the reflection didn't agree. The contrast couldn't be clearer. Tomi was dropping facts like a surgeon with a scalpel, carefully slicing apart Sunny's every claim. That's the real kicker. She wasn't digging into obscure theories or throwing out statistics no one could follow. She kept it simple. Numbers, context, reality. The kind of information anyone can double-check in 5 seconds. But that's Sunny's kryptonite. The moment facts enter the conversation, her emotional house of cards collapses.
It's for merit-based immigration or has an issue with open borders. And again, just like you said, they don't seem to understand that we on the right believe in immigration. We understand that we are a nation of immigrants, and I am proud of my heritage. However, I do believe that the immigration crisis of today is apples to oranges from what it was in the 1800s when immigrants came to this country legally, were documented, worked for themselves, asked for nothing.
She can't handle a debate where the rules aren't tilted in her favor. She's used to an environment where her co-hosts nod along or carefully avoid pointing out how flimsy her logic really is. Tomi doesn't play that game. She's not there to nod, she's there to strike. And when she did, Sunny scrambled. Every time Tomi cut through with clarity, Sunny responded with indignation, as if being offended somehow counted as evidence. It's the classic move of someone who's lost the argument but still wants to win the sympathy vote. Too bad the audience wasn't buying it. The reaction was brutal. People watching knew exactly what they saw. One woman making solid points, the other unraveling in real time. Social media lit up with clips of Sunny fumbling while Tomi's comebacks landed with sniper accuracy. Comments poured in mocking Sunny's inability to stay on track while praising Tomi for staying cool under fire. It wasn't just a win, it was a demolition. They want clarity. They want confidence. They want someone who doesn't waste their time pretending outrage is a substitute for reason.
Sunny Hostin of The View finds out that this is fantastic. She is descended from slaveholders. Here's what she said when she went out on The View.
Really reluctant to do it because
I just sensed that there could be something in my family history that would be disappointing. But what I found out was that my mother's family, while they are Puerto Rican, they actually originate from Spain. And the reason that they moved to Puerto Rico is because the slave trade had been sort of canceled in Spain and then Curacao, and then they moved all of their slaves to Puerto Rico. And so the family business, I had been told that they were printers and journalists. I still believe in reparations, by the way, so y'all can stop texting me and emailing me and saying that I'm a white girl and that I don't deserve reparations.
Okay, I'm not going to text you or email you, but it's true.
That's why Sunny always loses these battles. She mistakes being elitist for being persuasive. She assumes her Ivy League credentials automatically put her above the crowd. But the crowd doesn't care. They care about arguments that make sense, not arguments that sound fancy. Tomi understands that, and it's why she consistently dismantles opponents who underestimate her. By the end, it wasn't even a contest. Sunny looked exhausted, defensive, and desperate for a way out. Tomi looked unbothered, almost amused, like she'd just swatted a fly buzzing too close. The optics told the story better than words ever could. Sunny came in thinking she'd win with authority, and she walked out exposed as unprepared and overmatched. Sunny still doesn't realize it. She'll go back on her show, repeat the same points, and convince herself she's on the right side of history. Meanwhile, Tomi keeps stacking wins and building a reputation as the one person who can cut through the noise with sharp, biting clarity. One is living in a bubble, the other is popping it. Sunny should probably stick to panel shows where no one pushes back too hard, because when she steps into the arena with someone like Tomi, it's not a debate, it's an execution. And everyone watching knows exactly who walked away carrying the sword.
That they moved to Puerto Rico is because the slave trade had been sort of canceled in Spain and then Curacao, and then they moved all of their slaves to Puerto Rico. And so the family business, I had been told that they were printers and journalists. I still believe in reparations, by the way, so y'all can stop texting me and emailing me and saying that I'm a white girl and that I don't deserve reparations.
Okay, I'm not going to text you or email you, but it's true.
Sunny Hostin's biggest weakness is that she doesn't realize she's losing until it's already over. She starts out smug, convinced she's got the high ground, but the moment Tomi fires back with something grounded in reality, Sunny's entire performance collapses like a stage prop built out of cardboard. It's almost cinematic. The smugness fades, the eyebrows arch, the voice rises an octave, and suddenly she's flustered, waving her hands as if gesturing will somehow bring her arguments back to life. That meltdown is her signature move. The second she gets cornered, she turns into a jukebox on shuffle. One moment she's ranting about justice, the next she's pivoting to morality, and within seconds she's screaming about fairness like a lawyer who lost the case but still wants to lecture the jury. It's like watching a cat knock a vase off the shelf, then sit there purring while the owner panics about the shards. The contrast is brutal. One woman unraveling in panic, the other cool and collected, sipping confidence like it's iced coffee. What makes this even funnier is that Sunny thinks being loud means being right. She tries to dominate conversations by talking over people, cutting in before they can finish, and repeating the same phrases as if repetition magically transforms weak arguments into strong ones.
Sunny Hostin, who I think is truly the nastiest woman on television and a genuine racist and not that bright, despite her law degree and everything else. She found out a little bit, you know these TV shows where they tell you a little bit about your family history and your ancestry? She found out some stuff about her ancestors that, well, gad, her genealogy test came back negative. Yeah, she's related to slaveholders. What are we gonna do? Should Whoopi flog her on the show? Sit on her? What do we do? What do we do?
Well, in a sense, let's link it back to the earlier conversation on the forensic accounting of who owns which land, and you can't move forward in life.
But that doesn't work against someone like Tomi. Tomi doesn't shout to be heard. She makes her words sharp enough that even whispers land like thunderclaps. Sunny's yelling becomes background noise while Tomi's points echo long after she's finished speaking. And let's not pretend Sunny didn't try every trick in the book to claw her way back. She leaned on identity politics, weaponized outrage, and even tried to guilt the audience into siding with her. But guilt isn't proof. Outrage isn't evidence. And feelings, no matter how theatrically delivered, don't erase facts. Tomi's rebuttals made that painfully clear. When Sunny ranted, Tomi responded with statistics. When Sunny tried moral posturing, Tomi countered with historical context. When Sunny spun hypotheticals, Tomi grounded it with practical reality. They landed like a comedian's punchlines. Real laughter, real cheers, the kind of visceral response you can't fake. That's how you know she won. Not just logically, but emotionally. She connected in a way Sunny never could. And here's where it gets embarrassing for Sunny. She had no idea how bad it looked. She thought raising her voice and doubling down would mask the weakness.
Phobic monsters who just want everyone to speak American because they don't have to compete with these people for resources. And they sure as heck don't have to deal with any of the externalities associated with open borders.
But every nation has the right to enforce their border. Every nation has a right to protect its citizens. I've said it before. You don't lock your door because you hate the people outside. You lock it because you believe in protecting the people inside. That is why we have a border. But the left would rather us have open borders.
But the more she insisted, the more obvious it became that she was rattled. She looked like a kid trying to explain why the dog ate her homework, hoping theatrics would cover up the missing assignment. Meanwhile, Tomi was the teacher, calmly marking a giant red F across the page. What makes this whole thing fascinating is that Sunny always falls into the same trap. She debates as if emotion alone guarantees victory. She confuses being offended with being right. She assumes that if she looks outraged enough, everyone else will just surrender and agree. But outrage without foundation is like fireworks without fire. They make a noise, but they don't light anything up. Tomi doesn't give her that easy out. Tomi thrives in debates because she refuses to let theatrics substitute for substance. She insists on facts, on logic, on actual points that can't be brushed aside with a dramatic sigh or a glare at the camera. The kind of viral moment that cements reputations. For Sunny, it cemented her as the queen of overreaction and underperformance. For Tomi, it cemented her as the sharp debater who never backs down and never gets rattled. And let's talk about that delivery, because it matters. Tomi doesn't waste time dressing her points in fancy words. She keeps it short, clear, and devastatingly effective. Sunny, on the other hand, piles on jargon, legalese, and buzzwords like she's padding a college essay to reach the word count. Audiences see right through that. They don't want a lecture. They want clarity. They don't want elitism. They want plain truth. Tomi gives them that, and Sunny never does. By the time Sunny hit peak meltdown, interruptions, raised voice, and all, the outcome was sealed. She just sat back and let Sunny implode under her own weight. It was a lesson in how style without substance crumbles when faced with someone who actually knows how to argue. Tomi proved once again that precision, confidence, and facts beat theatrics, arrogance, and emotional grandstanding every single time. And Sunny? Well, Sunny left with her usual meltdown reel, except this time the internet made sure everyone saw it.